Welcome, tennis fans, sport enthusiasts, and everyone tuning in from across the globe to our channel today. We are about to unpack a moment that has absolutely sent shockwaves through the international tennis community, a moment that transcends the boundaries of a standard tournament match and taps into the very raw, unfiltered essence of the sport we love. Today, we are talking about a phenomenon that has completely captivated an entire nation, and indeed, the digital world. We are talking about the staggering, breathtaking scenes out of Stuttgart, Germany, where a seemingly routine practice session transformed into an electrifying spectacle that left an entire arena of discerning tennis aficionados completely and utterly amazed. The headline that has been dominating social media feeds, tennis forums, and sports news outlets everywhere is this: the viral practice video of the phenomenal rising star from the Philippines, Alexandra Eala, going toe-to-toe, shot for heavy shot, against the reigning American superstar and Grand Slam champion, Coco Gauff, in front of a massively crowded, standing-room-only audience in Stuttgart. Let us set the scene and summarize exactly why this specific event has detonated across the tennis landscape. You have to understand that in the highly regimented, schedule-driven world of professional tennis, practice sessions are usually quiet, methodical affairs. They are behind-the-scenes laboratories where players fine-tune their strokes, adjust to the specific conditions of a tournament, and work on their footwork away from the glaring pressure of the main stadium lights. But every so often, the stars align, the matchup is just right, and the intensity level spikes so high that a mere practice session morphs into a blockbuster event of its own. This is precisely what happened on the indoor red clay courts of the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart. The word spread like absolute wildfire through the grounds that Coco Gauff, one of the biggest names in the sport, a player whose explosive athleticism and star power draw crowds wherever she goes, was stepping onto the practice court. Naturally, the fans flocked. The German tennis public is renowned for being incredibly knowledgeable, passionate, and appreciative of high-level tennis. They have a rich history of supporting the sport, and they know greatness when they see it. So, they crowded the viewing galleries, filling every available space, expecting to watch the American prodigy run through her paces. But what they got, and what the entire world subsequently witnessed through the viral footage that flooded the internet, was a jaw-dropping masterclass in striking, heart, and undeniable talent from the other side of the net. Enter Alexandra Eala. For those who might not be intimately familiar with the granular details of the rising prospects on the WTA Tour, Alex Eala is the crown jewel of Philippine tennis, a graduate of the prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy, and a former junior Grand Slam champion who has been steadily, relentlessly climbing professional ranks. When the crowd in Stuttgart realized who was sparring with Gauff, there was a murmur of intrigue, but when the first balls were struck, that murmur turned into absolute, stunned silence, followed by rapturous amazement. The video footage that has broken the internet shows a level of hitting that is simply off the charts. We are talking about blistering, heavy topspin forehands, impossibly sharp cross-court backhands, and footwork that left the clay scorched. Eala, a left-hander, was not just keeping up with Gauff's famously heavy ball. She was matching it, absorbing the pace, and redirecting it with a ferocity that defied her age and her current ranking. The German crowd, initially there to catch a glimpse of an established superstar, found themselves entirely mesmerized by the sheer audacity and skill of the Filipina challenger. This intro summary would not be complete without touching upon the immense cultural and sporting significance of this viral moment. Why did this video explode the way it did? Why is everyone from Manila to Miami to Munich talking about it? Because it represents the thrilling collision of two distinct paths in the tennis world. On one side, you have Coco Gauff, who was thrust into the global spotlight at the age of 15, who has already scaled a mountain to win the U.S. Open, and who carries the monumental weight of American tennis expectations on her shoulders. She is the benchmark, the elite standard of the new generation. On the other side, you have Alexandra Eala, representing a country without a massive historical footprint in global tennis, carrying the hopes of millions of Filipinos, grinding her way through the ITF circuit, and proving that the development system at the Rafa Nadal Academy produces absolute warriors. When these two stepped onto the court, even just for practice, the energy was palpable. The viral clips show points that belong in a Grand Slam final. The sliding on the clay, the grunt of exertion, the sheer velocity of the tennis ball. It was a sensory overload for the fans in attendance. The German crowd, known for their polite applause during practice, was seen gasping, cheering, and frantically recording on their phones, amazed by the sheer quality of the sparring. They recognized immediately that they were not just watching a warm-up. They were watching the future of the sport unfolding right before their eyes. This wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. Eala showed the world, and more importantly, she showed herself that she absolutely belongs on the same court as the highest echelon of the sport. The viral nature of this event is a testament to the fact that sports fans crave authenticity. They crave high-level competition, and they absolutely love a narrative where a rising star proves her mettle against an established giant. The incredible buzz generated by this single practice session has overshadowed many actual matches, proving that the magic of tennis isn't confined to the scorecard, but exists in the raw, undeniable display of talent and willpower. Now, let us transition into our deep dive analysis of this incredible event, breaking down every single layer of what makes this viral Stuttgart moment so fundamentally important for Alexandra Eala, for Coco Gauff, and for the landscape of women's professional tennis. We need to look far beyond the immediate shock value of the viral clips and dissect the underlying technical, psychological, and contextual factors that define this narrative. First, we must deeply analyze the anatomy of a viral practice session and why the specific hit in Stuttgart caught fire. In the modern era of social media, the curtain between the players and fans has been pulled back significantly. Fans are no longer satisfied with just watching the sanitized, broadcast-directed feeds of tournament matches. They want the raw, unfiltered access. They want to see the sweat, the frustration, the repetition, and the unvarnished skill that goes into building a champion. Practice courts offer an intimacy that massive stadiums simply cannot provide. The fans in Stuttgart were standing just mere feet away from Gauff and Eala. They could hear the distinct, heavy thud of the ball compressing against the strings. They could hear the squeak of the shoes sliding on the crushed brick. They could see the intense focus in the players' eyes. When a practice session reaches a level of intensity that this one did, it creates an electric atmosphere that is incredibly conducive to virality. Someone pulls out a smartphone, captures a 20-shot rally of absolute baseline warfare, posts it online, and the algorithm does the rest. But algorithms only push what is genuinely compelling. The reason this footage amazed the entire nation of Germany and the rest of the world is purely down to the staggering quality of the tennis on display. It was a juxtaposition of a known elite quantity in Coco Gauff against a relatively unknown, yet explosive quantity in Alexandra Eala. Let us focus our analytical lens entirely on Alexandra Eala for a moment. To truly appreciate why the German crowd was so astounded, you have to understand her journey. Hailing from the Philippines, a nation universally recognized for its passionate sporting culture, but not traditionally known as a global tennis powerhouse, Eala has been a trailblazer from a very young age. Her decision to move to Spain to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy was a pivotal moment. The academy environment is notoriously grueling, designed to instill the legendary Spanish work ethic, the heavy topspin baseline game, and an unbreakable mental fortitude. You could see all of those elements culminating in this practice session against Gauff. Eala is a left-hander, which immediately presents a unique tactical challenge for any opponent. Her forehand is her major weapon, loaded with heavy RPMs, designed to push opponents deep behind the baseline. But what truly stood out in the Stuttgart footage was her ability to handle Gauff's extreme pace. Coco Gauff is one of the heaviest balls on the WTA Tour. Her physical strength and racket head speed are terrifying. For a younger, lower-ranked player to step onto court and not be completely blown off it by Gauff's power is impressive enough. But Eala did not just survive, she thrived. She was stepping inside the baseline, taking the ball early and rushing Gauff. This requires extraordinary hand-eye coordination, supreme confidence, and flawless footwork. The reason the crowd was amazed is that they expected a one-sided hitting session where the superstar dictated play. Instead, they got a heavyweight bout where Eala was throwing absolute haymakers. This deep dive must emphasize the psychological boost this provides for Eala. In tennis, belief is half the battle. Hitting with a Grand Slam champion and realizing that your best shots can hurt them, that your movement can match theirs, is a massive paradigm shift for a young player. Eala will leave that practice court knowing that the gap between her current ranking and the very top of the game is not a chasm, but a bridgeable distance. Conversely, we must analyze this from the perspective of Coco Gauff. Why would a top-tier player engage in such an intense practice session with a rising qualifier or lower-ranked player? For Gauff, the constant evolution of her game is paramount. Having achieved the ultimate dream of winning the U.S. Open, the pressure on her is not diminished. It has transformed. She is now the hunted. Every player steps onto the court against her with nothing to lose, swinging freely. Practicing with a hungry, talented, and slightly unconventional left-hander like Eala is exactly the kind of preparation Gauff needs. Stuttgart is a unique tournament. The indoor red clay plays much faster than traditional outdoor clay. It requires a delicate balance of the sliding and point construction of clay court tennis, with the aggressive first-strike mentality of indoor hard courts. Gauff needs hitting partners who can push her, who can rush her famously scrutinized forehand side, and who can make her work for every single ball. Eala provided exactly that. Gauff's willingness to engage in this high-level sparring, allowing the crowd to witness a genuinely competitive practice rather than a relaxed warm-up, speaks volumes about her work ethic and her respect for Eala's game. Gauff knows that iron sharpens iron. She understands that the next generation is always coming, and by practicing with players like Eala, she is testing herself against the future. The viral video showed Gauff digging deep, utilizing her phenomenal, world-class defensive skills to retrieve Eala's aggressive strikes before turning defense into offense with her lethal backhand. It was a tactical chess match played at 100 miles per hour. Furthermore, we must delve into the specific environmental factors that made this practice session in Stuttgart so visually and technically captivating. The Porsche Tennis Grand Prix is one of the most prestigious events on the calendar. The indoor setting completely eliminates the variables of wind and sun, allowing for the purest possible ball striking. The acoustics of the indoor arena mean that every strike of the ball echoes like a gunshot. When Eala and Gauff were trading those heavy topspin blows, the sound alone would have been enough to draw a crowd. The clay surface itself is a crucial character in this story. Clay demands a level of physical exertion and tactical patience that other surfaces do not. You have to slide into your shots, you have to hit through the court, and you have to be prepared to hit an extra 3 or 4 balls to win a point that would be over in 2 shots on grass. Watching Eala train on the Spanish clay of Mallorca, utilizing her movement to seamlessly glide into her left-handed forehands, contrasting with Gauff's incredibly explosive athletic slides, was an absolute masterclass in movement. The German crowd, raised on the clay court exploits of their own legends, appreciates this nuanced movement deeply. They understand the physical toll of an intense clay court rally. When they saw the sheer effort, the sweat, and the relentless intensity both players were pouring into a non-televised practice, their amazement was born out of profound respect for craft. We also need to consider the broader geopolitical and marketing implications of this moment within the sport of tennis. Tennis is a global game, but its epicenters have traditionally been in Europe and the United States. Coco Gauff is the undeniable face of American tennis, carrying the torch passed down by the Williams sisters. Alexandra Eala, however, represents a massive, largely untapped market for tennis in Southeast Asia. The incredible virality of this video was undoubtedly fueled by the passionate support of the Filipino fan base, who are incredibly active and vocal online. When you combine the massive American audience following Gauff with a fiercely loyal Filipino audience supporting Eala, you create a digital explosion. The WTA Tour desperately needs these cross-cultural, cross-generational rivalries and storylines. The fact that this narrative was birthed not in a scheduled broadcast, but organically on a practice court, makes it infinitely more authentic and engaging. It highlights the democratization of sports media, where fans with cameras can dictate the news cycle and elevate a moment into global consciousness. It proves that the appetite for women's tennis is voracious, provided the product is compelling. And what is more compelling than a young, fearless challenger going toe-to-toe with the established queen of the court? To further this deep dive, let's analyze the technical matchup we witnessed. Eala's left-handedness is a massive tactical advantage. On the ad side of the court, her natural cross-court forehand goes directly into Gauff's backhand. While Gauff's backhand is arguably one of the best in the world, Eala's ability to pull Gauff wide off the court with heavy topspin opens up the down-the-line space. In the viral clips, we saw Eala utilizing this exact pattern, opening the court masterfully and demonstrating a very high tennis IQ. Conversely, Gauff was using her incredible court speed to neutralize Eala's angles, forcing Eala to hit lower percentage shots. The practice session was essentially a live-fire tactical experiment. Eala was testing to see if her heavy spin could penetrate Gauff's elite defense. Gauff was testing to see how well she could handle an aggressive, left-handed onslaught on the slick indoor clay. The fact that the rallies were so extended, so brutal, and so fiercely contested indicates that both players were finding success, pushing each other to their absolute physical and mental limits. This is the absolute zenith of professional practice. It is not just about grooving strokes. It is about simulating the highest levels of match pressure. The German crowd, packed tightly against the fences, became part of the simulation. Their gasps, their applause, added a layer of external pressure that elevated the session from a routine hit to a performance. This moment also speaks to the incredible depth of the women's game right now. 10 or 15 years ago, the gap between a Grand Slam champion and a player grinding to the lower tiers was often visually obvious even in practice. The top player would dictate easily. Today, the physical conditioning, the technological advancements in rackets and strings, and the elite level of coaching available globally mean that players like Eala, who may not yet have the ranking, absolutely possess the raw game to challenge the very best. Eala is a product of modern tennis development. Athletic, powerful, tactically astute, and utterly fearless. The fact that she can step onto a crowded court in Germany, opposite one of the most famous athletes on the planet, and completely steal the show is a testament to her individual brilliance and the overall health of the sport. It sends a warning shot to the rest of the tour. The new generation is not waiting patiently in the wings. They are kicking down the doors. As we conclude this extensive deep dive into the technical, psychological, and cultural mechanics of this viral Stuttgart practice session, we have to look ahead. What does this mean for the future? For Alexandra Eala, this is a monumental building block. The confidence gained from looking across the net at Coco Gauff and knowing you can match her blow for blow is invaluable. It is the kind of experience that can accelerate a player's development by leaps and bounds. The next time Eala steps onto a main show court in a tournament, the environment will not feel quite as intimidating because she has already experienced the intense spotlight and the elite pace of a top-tier opponent. For Coco Gauff, it is another day at the office, but crucial one. It reinforces her commitment to the grind, her willingness to test herself against all comers, and her understanding that staying at the top requires constant vigilance and continuous improvement. And finally, we arrive at our outro, wrapping up this monumental analysis of a single spectacular tennis moment. The viral footage of Alexandra Eala and Coco Gauff in Stuttgart is so much more than just a fleeting internet sensation. It is a beautiful, raw distillation of why we watch sports. We watch for the unpredictability. We watch for the emergence of new talent. We watch to see human beings push themselves to the absolute limits of their physical and mental capabilities. The German crowd, who stood packed in that indoor arena, amazed by the display of skill, represented all of us. They represented the pure, unadulterated joy of witnessing elite athleticism up close and personal. They were captivated by the narrative of the established champion and the fearless challenger engaging in a dance of power, spin, and strategy on the crushed red brick. This event reminds us that the narrative of a tennis season is not solely written in the grandstand finals or the trophy ceremonies. It is written on the backcourts, in the practice sessions, in the quiet moments of relentless repetition that suddenly, without warning, ignite into something extraordinary. Alexandra Eala has announced herself to a much wider global audience not just as a prospect, but as a present danger to the established order. The Philippines has every right to be incredibly proud of their rising star, who handled the immense pressure of the moment with the poise of a seasoned veteran. And Coco Gauff, with her incredible grace and fierce competitive spirit, continues to be the phenomenal standard-bearer for her generation. I want to hear from all of you watching this extensive analysis. What was your immediate reaction when you first saw the viral clips of this practice session? Were you, like the crowd in Germany, completely amazed by the sheer power and intensity of Alexandra Eala's game? How do you see her matching up against the current top 10 players on the tour in an actual tournament setting? Do you think her left-handed game and heavy topspin will be the key to her breaking into the upper echelon of the sport? And what about Coco Gauff? How crucial are these intense practice sessions for her as she continually seeks to refine her game and dominate the tour across all surfaces? Drop your most detailed thoughts, your technical analyses, and your predictions for both of these incredible athletes in the comment section below. I read every single one of them, and I love seeing the passionate debate from this community. If you appreciated this deep, comprehensive dive into the nuances of professional tennis, if you enjoy content that goes far beyond the basic headlines and truly analyzes the sport at a granular level, please do me a massive favor and hit that like button. It truly helps push this video out to more tennis fans around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our extensive breakdowns of the biggest news, the greatest matches, and the most compelling stories from the ADP and WTA tours. We are dedicated to bringing you the highest quality, most detailed sports analysis on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for this incredibly long, in-depth look at the magic of Stuttgart. Keep swinging, keep watching the courts, and I will see you all in the very next deep dive video.